So welcome to the class, and today we are looking at evaluating instructional resources. In the previous class, we looked at the software which is normally used for instruction, how you can be able to evaluate it, and today we are looking at the internet. The internet can be used as part of the classroom instruction, whereby teachers can check and discuss current events with different locations throughout the world. Mostly you will find that the internet is always up to date, or you can find the most up to date information on the internet. And that is why it is also an important source of information that you can be able to look at. And it can also be used to research. Apart from looking at the current information or up-to-date information on the internet, you can use it for researching, you can use it for comparing, and also tracking, keeping track of what is happening, and if you are also up to date. And then you can use the internet for communication, that is through emails and through web discussions. So it is a real-world learning tool, and it has endless library of resources and timely information. But one thing which we have to be careful about is that when you are looking for information on the internet, anybody can post anything on the internet. And so it is always very important that you evaluate what is right and what is not right, or what is relevant for the class that you are teaching, or what is not relevant. So when you are looking for instructional materials on the internet, you will realize that you can look for interactive programs, or programs that are going to help you interact with other educators, or learners are going to interact with other learners elsewhere. You can also be looking at online experts, people who are also expert in the particular subject area. You can also be looking at research activities. You can also be looking at online collaborative projects or other resources that the internet is going to provide. So these resources and materials must be evaluated to determine their value. They also need to be evaluated to determine their purpose, their accuracy, and validity. How valid are they? So those are very important attributes you need to look at when you are accessing those materials, or when you are looking for those materials on the internet. These material can be resources for students, they can be interactive programs, they can be online experts. So that is how we are going to classify them. And you can always find that there are websites for children. Remember, we are looking at children who are up to 10 years. So there are specific websites for children where they can be able to look for material, or they can be able to interact with other children for learning purposes. You can also find that on the internet there are research activities for educators, so that educators are able to research and get new material which is going to help them when they are teaching. So there is the basic research, advanced research, and also original research which educators can look at. And then we look at the evaluation criteria. And so when we are looking at the evaluation criterion, it is very important to look at this content. And how do we look at it? Mostly in the evaluation criteria, criteria, we have several attributes that we can use, or there are five steps that can be used to evaluate internet content. So number one, we can talk of credentials. But when we are looking at credentials, we are asking what does the author know about the subject? So that is number one. Or basically, what are the author's credentials? So that is very important when you are looking at it. And when you are looking at that, yes, Agnes.
Can you increase the font? It is too small.
Oh, the font. Okay. Let me do that. I hope now you are able to see. Is it visible?
No, sir.
What about now?
It is
Increase a
visible.
bit.
So now it is better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you are looking at the author's credentials, most of the times, or how can you look at it? Most of the time when you go to a particular website, you will realize that you will find the credentials at the back or at the end of that article. Maybe you scroll down up to the end of the article. When you open a web page, in any article or a scholarly journal, you will find that the list of the credentials are normally at the beginning or at the end of that article. And they will include the name of the author and details that pertain to their expertise on the topic. Maybe their education level, maybe their occupation in a college or a university, like maybe they could be, maybe it's a professor or it is a doctor of a particular subject, and they are normally, maybe they are lecturing in a particular university, that is which subject they are normally teaching, and that now is where you can find the credentials of that author of a particular journal or article that you are accessing on the internet. So that is the first step that you usually follow in order to evaluate online content. Number two is where we talk about objectivity. Objectivity. And when we are talking about objectivity, we are asking, does the author have an agenda? So there we are trying to find out, does this person have an objective? Like, what is the likely bias, if there is any, of the author? Because some subjects may be biased to a particular objective, others may be biased to another objective, and all of that. And here is, what are the ideas that are being presented, or what are the opinions or the research? Is it going to determine the usefulness of the source? That is the main question that you want to ask. And you are asking, does the source show any political, cultural, or any other bias? Because you may find that some people, let's say it is a research and it is being done with a focus maybe to a particular geographical location or to a particular ideology. Maybe it is a religious ideology and somebody is talking about how Muslims are supposed to tackle a particular subject of study. Now, when it has maybe an agenda towards, or it is being biased towards a particular ideological objective, then you have to be careful on how you are going to use that information or how you are going to use that content when you are teaching your students. Most of the time, you need to be able to look at what are the objectives or what is this author all about. So you could be going to the back of the book, or if it is a website, you go to the section where they are talking about us or about the website or who we are. And that page is going to give details of what causes or ideas the site stands for. That is what we mean. What cause, is it literally cause or idea the site stands for? So when you look at that, then you can be able to understand what this information is all about. So that if it is biased to something that is not good for your children, then you will be able to avoid it. If it is an objective website which is talking about educational content, then it is okay. So that is the next step, the second step when you're evaluating web content. Step number 3, write it myself. Number 3, we are talking about documentation. When we are talking about documentation is where did the author get the information? There has to be the source of that information. So here the author needs to indicate where they got that information from, because that is going to affect the value of that content you are trying to use in your class. So it is going to also help you to verify the facts. Helps in verification of facts, so that you can be able to say that maybe there was some research that was carried out, data was collected about this subject, and these were the findings. And with that, then you can be able to use it objectively. That is what we are talking about now, having a proper source. Resources that include documentation are considered more reliable and scholarly, and they are suitable for use in educational purposes. So as an educator, you need always to check where was this information obtained from, and documentation can always be found at the end of the article or that particular web page. Where was this information gotten from? So that somebody doesn't go and sit down and write their own ideas or opinions and they pass them as the correct information. There has to be a source that will indicate where they got that information from. Then number 4, we talk about timeliness. And when we are talking about timeliness, is like when was the material written? That is the main question that we are asking. And when we are looking at that, we need to know the date of publication, and that is going to determine date of publication, which may determine the value of the content. If it is too old, maybe it may be obsolete. Sometimes you can find information on the internet that is maybe 1 or 2 years and it is already obsolete. Sometimes you find others which could be even 50 years old, but still they are valid, because it will depend on the subject matter. So it is always very important to always look at when was this information published, so that you can determine if it is obsolete or if it is still valid. And normally you will find that the date of publication will be clearly listed at the front of that web page or article that you are using. When you go to the website, you will find it at the bottom of that web page. So at the top, you will find that there is the topic of the article, maybe by the author, and then the date of publication. So that is where you can look at it. And then step number 5 is all about review and editing. And editing. And here, the question is, was the material reviewed for publication? That is the main question that we are asking. And when we are asking that question, what exactly do we want to understand? When this information is being published, it needs to have been looked at by other scholars or experts in that particular field, so that when it is being published, it can be seen as something that has been peer reviewed or something that has been passed as being of correct authenticity. So review and editing is very important. And when the material is reviewed, then it means that it has accuracy and it has value. So when you are using it for the children, then it is going to be of importance. So those are the 5 steps that you need to look at or you need to follow when you are reviewing information that is on the internet. Then, when you are reviewing that information, there are several attributes that you can always look at. Attributes of good content. When you are looking at it on the internet, there are several attributes. One is authority, which we might have touched on. The other one is accuracy, which also touched on that. The other one is objectivity. We have also touched on that. Then currency, which we have also touched on. There is also coverage. And finally is appearance. Those are the attributes that you need to look at, or the features which will tell you that this content is good for the learners to use in class. So when you are talking about authority, it is all about being able to verify the author, just like we have said. Are you able to see, does this author know what they are talking about? What are their credentials and such? When you are looking at accuracy, what we are talking about here is, are the sources going to give information that can be verified? Or is the information free from grammatical, spelling, and typographical errors? So here is just verifying the facts. The facts about the content. Then with objectivity, like we have said, does it contain any bias? Any bias? That is what you are trying to look at when you are talking about objectivity. And then currency is all about when the information was published. That is basically what you are looking at. And when you are looking at the coverage, is, are the topics successfully addressed? That is what you are trying to understand. If you are talking about a particular subject matter, is it properly addressed? Has it been properly covered? And then appearance is all about, does the site look well organized? Does the site look well organized? Do the links work? And also, does the site appear well maintained? So those are the attributes you are going to be looking at when you are verifying information on the content or on the internet. So this information, like we have said, is interactive programs, whereby we are talking about programs that help students in all subjects so that they can discover, drill, and practice tutorial simulation, as well as instructional games and quizzes. And here, the user may download maybe a plugin or a software to expand the browser's capabilities so that they can be able to view the program or interact with the program. You can also be talking of online experts, whereby it is a site that has materials and resources that are going to help in expanding the knowledge for the learner. Then we have also talked about websites for children, whereby these are going to provide monitored discussion forums, chat rooms, and also dust artwork, pen pal clubs, and so many others. Like here, there is an example which you can look at later. That is the hooligans. But like I have said, once we have covered this content, we shall look at these specific practical areas. So there are these websites for children whereby this is like a directory and a search engine for children. The main idea is that children will not encounter content that is not related to them. So it is a safe area. You can be assured that children will not encounter adult content. And that is why it is called website for children. Then there are also research activities which you can carry out there. And like we have said, you can have basic research. And here it's just a matter of comparing and reporting information from pre-selected websites. Like you check information on this website and another one, then you compare and give report on how they appear. Then there is advanced research whereby you are going to be familiar with various techniques for searching the internet, and here you are basically looking at an advanced activities like investigating, and then the websites are not going to be pre-selected, and you are going to evaluate the source to determine the accuracy and unbiased complete information. And then there is original research, whereby students or educators need to collect data from other students on the internet or from other educators on the internet, and then they are going to evaluate this data and bring out original findings out of the data that they have collected. So this can be found in such websites like WebQuest, which we will also look at. Then advanced research can always be found on the internet, and also students can be able to exchange this information via email, or they can have opportunities to practice their communication skills, write for a specific audience, and engage in meaningful activities. So when you are doing research or when you are trying to search on the internet, what are the do's and don'ts? Number one is that you should never type in all caps because it is going to be difficult to read. I hope this is visible, or do I need to expand the font? So always write in caps. You are also communicating with a person, not a computer, so you need to be having the right language. That is what we are saying here. You need to choose words carefully. so that it is not going to give a different impression from what you meant, and text does not contain the same nuances of voice or facial expression. Then you need to be professional and respectful of others. Nothing is private on the cyberspace, so impressions are going to be made in writing, just like in face to face. So when you are making an impression, make sure that it is the right one, because nothing is going to be private. It is going to show exactly who you are or the kind of a person you are. And when you are doing activities such as video conferencing, then here, this is a method where you can engage in collaborative projects. And when you are doing a video conference, it is going to provide online expeditions where students can communicate with real explorers as they travel to other interesting places on the internet, or as they try to engage. So there needs to be that decorum when you are interacting with others on the internet, especially with video conferences. Then there are classroom web pages, and these are web pages that are designed to assist parents with questions, teachers to communicate with on upcoming events, and somehow they are informational, not so much educational, but they are supposed to pass information. And so educators can use the coursework to showcase their uh, students work, conduct surveys, and list calls for collaboration tools. And they are going to help educators so that they can create good web pages that can be used for that purpose. And when we are talking about these web pages, they normally use what you see is what you get. It is here explained. So, how you are going to present that information, that is how it is going to be seen out there. And so it needs to be properly organized, it needs to be properly programmed. So, how do you evaluate again? The intent, we have already looked at this. What is going to be the intent? Definitely, when you go to a particular website, the extension that is going to be found, this I will show you practically, but if you find an extension that is .edu, it means that that is an educational website. .gov, that is a government website. .com, that is a commercial website. .org, that is a non-profit organization. .net, that is a special network resource. So by looking at the domain, already it can tell you what kind of a website that is and how what you expect to find in that website. So there are some websites which will definitely already tell you what is expected and how you need to interact with them. So that domain extension provides information about the sponsor of the website. Maybe it is regulated or sponsored by a government. And so the information on that site is likely to be valid, because you do not expect the government to put information that is not valid. And also, there is going to be the aspect of, is there a likelihood of bias, or is there a likelihood of some special interest by the government on what they need to pass to learners? So that is how you can evaluate. Also, reason why is the information being posted on the web? Like we have said, there is going to be the objective. What is the objective? So, is the agenda hidden, or is it explicit? Does the information influence, or does it attract potential customers, donations, or memberships to a cause, or just to provide information? So, that one is something you need to also evaluate. What is the target audience? Is the website for children, or does it target the educators, or does it target special interest groups? To whom is the information written for? So that is very important. Now, then layout, like we have said, the appearance is very important. When you are looking at the layout in that particular web page, is whether the information is the main focus of the web page, or there is an obscure part surrounded by unrelated content. You know, those contents where they have other links to take you elsewhere. So the questions is that you need to have a website that the layout is clear and uncluttered. The website, uh, the website and advertisement is not disguised as information. Sometimes you could be clicking somewhere, but it is a link to another website so that they can advertise the information. That should not be there. Do the graphics and links support the information or they are unrelated? And we shall use an example of a website to look at this. Sometimes you can go and click on a picture and then it takes you to somewhere else which is not related to the education content that you're interested in. And then are there other items on the website, maybe animations or graphics that are going to distract the user to other information on the website. That is where we are saying that it needs to be clear and it needs to be well organized. And then this is going to determine whether the web page has the right intent, which is education or some other ulterior motive. The content itself, when you're evaluating that content of a website, students should consider the authority, like we have said. Authority is very important. Who is the author? What is their knowledge or what is their expertise in this subject? Is it current? Is there bias? So all of that information needs to be verified. Then if it is authority, it needs to be refereed or it needs to be reviewed so that the author and his expertise have been reviewed. And then information should be provided in the bibliography about the source of that content. So that is why we are asking, have others verified the document, author's biography and email address, as well as any additional information about the author, like if the author's citations are accurate. All of that needs to be verified. So when you are looking at currency, when was the website created? When was it last updated? When was the document published? Is there more information that is available about that subject which is being published? Then bias. Does it persuade or rather inform? When it is persuading, it is trying to tell the readers how they need to behave or how they need to interact with the content and where it is taking them. But if it is just informing, then the point of view being expressed is simply being information so that you can know what to do with the information that you have been given, and that is it. So, is the information written to inform or persuade the learner? Does the information reflect a special interest or any specific point of view? Like we have said, it could be a cultural point of view, a religious point of view, or even a knowledge point of view. What is exactly is it doing? Then, when you are looking at the verification of information, you are looking for inconsistencies in the information being presented to identify whether evidence or examples are given to support statements or conclusions, noting whether the information is a fact or opinion or both. And then once you recognize what information is being withheld and why, then you can be able to say this information is factual or not. And then that is why we are asking this information. Is the author consistent? How does the author support their claim? How does the author present the whole or just part? Have you verified the sources? Are there additional tips which you need to follow in order to verify the information? Can you use the internet to support the desire of learners? And what is the outcome of this information? Once you follow it, what outcome is it going to give? So those are the guidelines you need to look at. And then is there permission to use the internet in class? What are the guidelines in schools in regard to acceptable use policy? And then is it instructing students on procedure for using the internet? And is there use of internet support which supports desired learner outcome? And what student should do if they accidentally access inappropriate website. All of that information needs to be provided so that when you're accessing the internet, then it is going to give the desired learner outcome and students are able to understand and use this information uh, in a beneficial way.